truly fascinating report. A lot of things I thought were counterintuitive. For example, 2 out of every 3 people surveyed said they expect to have greater economic opportunities than their parents did. And yet, you know, a whole generation of people can't afford to buy a home. But your survey, you were just explaining to us, is very comprehensive. Tell us about how you did it.
Well, good morning, y'all. And I guess the first thing is remember that we're starting with actual data reported on anonymized tax returns. And then in addition to that, we're surveying 8,000 consumers across 4 generations. And so this is the 4th year we've done the report. And because it is actual tax return data, not just sentiment data, I think that's why it may paint a picture that might be a little counterintuitive about optimism especially.
That's so interesting because we've been seeing that play out. It feels like across the economy for a while that the sentiment readings are miserable, and yet you take a look at what people are actually spending and they're earning, and it's a little bit different there. But talk to us, too, about the role that debt plays into this survey and what you're seeing there.
Absolutely. And to be clear, when we're asking people about optimism, it's not about necessarily right now or next week. I mean, the inflation pressures have been real on the consumer. But when they think about themselves versus prior generations, themselves versus their parents, that's where the optimism really kicks in. And debt is really the one big overhang. And we see that being credit card debt. We see it being student loan debt. Obviously, as a company, we're focused on helping people get the most financial outcomes they can and learn how to manage their money better. But debt really is the biggest overhang as we look in the next year and more.
I want to know about your business and the potential of artificial intelligence, because whenever I have been thinking about AI over the past few years, I instantly think of the tax code. It's so big and complicated and difficult to understand. Is this something where, I mean, have you trained your own model for this?
So we have a great partnership in our current use cases with OpenAI and Microsoft, and we're also bullish on what AI can do in our business, both for the consumer and for the thousands of tax professionals. Last year, we introduced what we called AI Tax Assist into our do-it-yourself software, and we saw consumers that engage with that product convert, meaning finish their return at a higher level. We've spent a lot of time since April improving that product. So, you know, this is a very long game, of course, but I'm really bullish about what we're seeing with AI in our consumer products and ultimately what it can mean to the productivity of our staff as well.
Yeah, it'll be fascinating to see that bear fruit. I do want to talk about 2025 and what could happen to your business, though, because you take a look last week on Tuesday, your stock had a big drop to the tune of about 8%. That's after there was some news about Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy basically thinking about creating this mobile app that would let people actually file their taxes on the app. There's been efforts, including from the IRS, to develop something like this. And you've seen that move sort of been shaken off, but how are you thinking about that? I mean, there could be a possibility that something like this actually happens. We're on the priority list when it comes to the Department of Government Efficiency is an unknown, but what could it possibly mean for H&R Block, and are you taking any steps for that possibility?
Great big question. I mean, obviously, the starting point for us is remembering that currently, there are over 30 organizations that offer 100% free tax prep. We as a company offer free federal filing and free state filing, and most of that happens through an online product or app today. And so when I think about what the American consumer needs the most, they need a highly efficient and effective IRS. They need the phones to be answered. They need to know where the status of their refund. They need conflicts resolved. And so when we look at the market today, there are so many organizations already offering free tax prep apps. I really think the leverage is in helping the IRS do its job more efficiently and more effectively.
Yeah, I don't see a competent and efficient IRS anytime in our future, or a less convoluted tax code. I mean, isn't that where you can really take comfort that the way our system is set up just doesn't lead at all to simplification of the tax code. It's not in the interest of the people in Congress.
I mean, the thing that I've learned in this business, and keep in mind, we've been at this for 70 years as a company. I've been here for 7 years, is the American tax code by design is built to incentivize certain behaviors. Buy a home, get educated, have a family, get married. And so most people think so much about the deductions in the tax code, but for most Americans, it's really about these credits that incentivize them to pursue the American dream. It is complicated, especially when you factor in federal, state, city, or local in many cases. And so it is a complicated system, but it was designed to do something very specific. And so our job as a company is not to weigh into tax code, but we're helping the IRS administer the policy really by standing for the consumer and helping the consumer get everything they deserve at tax time.
Well, you could argue that the tax code is also set up so that people actually use services such as H&R Block because it is so cumbersome, it is so complicated. And with that being said, do you think that there's a certain price point where people might actually say, maybe I'll just do it myself, it's too expensive? How do you answer those sort of questions?
Yeah, it's not intuitive for a lot of people, but one of the most surprising things I've seen in our own business is the number of people who start as a DIY filer. They have confidence they can do it themselves. They start the process. The growth of people, the growth rate of people who are increasingly pushing the magic button and adding help to their own experience. And I love how we're positioned here because when that button is pushed, they can access AI tax assist and artificial intelligence, or they can access a live human for help. And so no matter how simple or complex the code is, what we've seen is it's a topic where people aren't confident. The outcome matters so much to Americans. Most are getting a refund. And so they want to ensure they're getting every single dollar they deserve. And that's really the role and value that H&R Block can play.